Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode. Tired, tried, and the madness of the soul, and where does life's intensity take the world? By the way, guys, please excuse the additional noises. Hopefully, the concepts are more entertaining. You see, I've been thinking about life's intensity. At first, it was like an equation to solve, something where the person doesn't know and you have to go get something to know. But afterwards, it becomes more like a specific event, It becomes more Indiana Jones style, I find, where we're trying to find uh, how would I say it? There is a motivation of the outcome, and then there is a motivation to be present. Yeah, it means like a micro outcome and a macro outcome. The micro outcome is short term. You're trying to wonder about the outcome of the instant moment. And the macro outcome, we say it's life intensity as it is instantaneously responded to or after instantaneously responded to. The human being lives the day as it expresses its energy, the energy you have when you wake up. You get tried, you get tested. And what takes the soul towards madness? There is a madness that is seen as chaotic and a madness that is seen as order. The madness, you can say, of the scientific mind, the philosophical mind. And then we have a madness that doesn't want to see. So we can say there is a sort of intensity that follows chaotic behavior and a unique kind of intensity. Guys, I'm thinking that I could have named the title also Tried, Tired, and Madness of the Soul. But I don't know, there was this intuitive feeling that the person first tries something. Sorry, the person first tries something, they get tired, then they're challenged. So it's like your energy goes to a form to keep a certain form, and through the test of time, that form is challenged. And so it leads to madness. It's like we are formed beings. We're going to have the forces of nature push against us, time and whatnot. And so, from just this phenomena, this energy container, okay, guys, so Govind in the chat section says, I find it crazy how complex a single moment can be interpreted as, but in reality, when broken to its fundamentals, it is just an amalgamation of basic interactions at a subatomic level. Let me tell you something interesting, Govind. You can't know the basic without the complex. All of life is an oscillation between dimensions. And the traditional is just, for the most basic way I say, it's a shift between the known and the unknown. That means you know things based on what you know that you don't. You know, it's a comparison. A lot of life is a comparison. What I'm trying to say, guys, is that it's like it has reached a point where I feel the next phase of the evolution of how the species knows is experiential. We have reached a point where no longer the vocal teacher is enough. Now the eyes have to live, regardless of if they're tired, tried, or the madness of the world finds them. You know? So think of it this way: where the person is born, you are a packet of energy. All right, you're a bag of energy, you're a balloon of energy, call it whatever you like. Okay, and this container is using subjective means to keep itself the same. A lot of people fear change because they don't realize life is always changing. If you realize it's always changing, you can't fear it. The intensity of life also changes. What does that mean? That means it's like the person was the simple order, walked in life, and then a chaotic complexity found the person. The simplicity is an elevation. The complexity is an elevation. Your mind is the world traveler. The mind travels worlds by generating itself as them. That means you as a human being can close your eyes, visualize any memory, just remember any memory, and even zoom in, and the mind even gives you an ability to reanimate your past memories. I'm telling you, this intelligence we are, it is not as organized as our language is making it seem. So this container of energy ends up in this world because of how it's contained. It has an individual definition. The collective forces of life test it. Okay. Okay. I don't know, guys. I'm trying to say that we're a container. We have forces act on this container. This container breaks. Before it breaks, it needs to get a realization of how energy is there unconditionally. Anybody who gets an insight in how energy is unconditional, it means you have noticed life occurring or being prior to the language that explains the doer. I have had dreams where I have died. One dream, it was intense. It was literally like there was a figure that ended my form, you know. And in another dream, I was lying down on this board in the water. Do you know, it was this weird dream, and I could notice my attention lifting, and it was as if, like, you know how we're inhaling and exhaling. Imagine there will come a day where with the next exhale you have flown out of your limited sphere of attention. So in the, of course it was a dream state, it was in the dream, I'm a living person talking to you. But in the dream state, attention is not limited to body, the whole moment is its body. So right now we feel like an objective self, right, in a subjective world. And anybody, of course, anybody who sees the causal position of the universe as unknown, you come to this conclusion. That means we are, what we know is that in an unknown subjective way, where there's the hard problem of consciousness. Consciousness is a mystery. It's like an unknown multidimensional mind is aware of its body in a known dimension. And as multidimensional beings playing the costume games of a singular dimensional being, you know, we think this is all one place. I'm telling you, it is kind of like 4 different authorizations of energy at the same time. One thing the person has to get acquainted with in this life, this is Mr. Within's advice to the living, is that the ultimate goal is self-actualization. And self-actualization means not just existing, but living. And it means living intelligently. But intelligence is something that the child is spoon-fed, but then has to go hunt. So you can say when you're younger, you're gathering intelligence, you know, in a sense, you know, it's very, you're just, you're maybe you know, your peripheral vision's picking up a lot of things, but it's not in your conscious mind. But when the person, let's say, goes and hunts, I'm just using the hunting and gathering as metaphors. It's all about conscious living, but the consciousness is unknown. And when we realize it's unknown, we feel we're experiencing the unconscious, and the moment we experience the unconscious, it becomes conscious. You know, if you were to think that the mind was in its own dimension and the body was in its own dimension, René Descartes, the Cartesian plane in mathematics, its founder conceived that mind and body were different dimensions. And there's the story that René Descartes, you know, he's come to this conclusion of the mind-body dualism, which, guys, you don't know how big of a finding that was. René Descartes did the impossible. He did one of those things where it was like he found the glitch in the system. He found that the isolated thinking subject, the doubter, like his method to truth was through doubt. So he was this dude, René Descartes, was doubting everything. You know, so as he was doubting everything, he realized he can't doubt the doubter. He came to the conclusion that what we really are is an isolated thinking subject. And so the moment you notice that you're watching your life, Rene Descartes pretty much felt like the witness of the moment to not be the moment. And a lot of philosophy, even if you read certain existential atheists like Jean-Paul Sartre, that's his whole thing. That Jean-Paul Sartre is saying that pretty much the essence of something and the surface are not the same, are the same. That means there is no essence. So this existential philosopher, he looked at reality and he's like, there's no heaven behind it. It's like he pretty much felt the tip of the iceberg was the whole iceberg. That's the best way to explain Sartre, you know. But what I'm trying to say is if the mind is in its own dimension and the body is in its own dimension, it could mean what happens to our body doesn't necessarily happen to our mind. That could imply that the body dies, the body breaks down, you know, dismantles, but the particles dismantle, but the body breaks, but the mind, nothing happens to it. Imagine death is just the transition of form. The life had nowhere to go. It's like energy. It's like, where do I go? You know, you think there's heaven and hell for energy? We all feel we're energy, but we're, you know, language has messed us up, you know? Language is making energy feel like it's weak. You know, it's making it. Do you believe it that we have built a civilization that is making us feel we don't have energy when we are energy? You know what I mean? Like, it's mind blowing. Honestly, when I give these talks, sometimes I feel like I'm in the trenches of the future. You know, you can imagine, like there's Remembrance Day in Canada, and you can kind of see, like, the mind can put itself in many positions before it actually puts itself in those positions. You know, so I wonder that if I was in a trench, imagine if I was you know, imagine everybody listening here, we were like soldiers in World War II in a trench, right? What would that moment be right after we step out of the trench? It's like we're tired in the trench, right? And the test is the only thing left. This life is kind of funny. We accept the alphabet, then we go on telling ourselves words that become worlds. And that's the madness of the soul, you know, that for how long can we just, you know, point to non-duality? The fingers get tired. So if the mind is in a different room than the body, imagine like an onion. The mind is like a bigger layer of the onion and the body is a smaller layer in the onion, right? It's like what happens to the spherical expression of the body does not disturb the spherical expression of the mind. So what I feel is going on is that mind and matter are taking turns. There was this time where I thought, like, it was one of those nights where my mind was feeling mythological, and and I remember it was something where I thought, what if the whole cosmos is a conversation between two gods, not one? That chaos and order are arm wrestling, and we are in the middle of their palm being a universe, you know? You see, there is this notion of Vishnu being the archetype of maintenance, Brahman in the Vedic tradition being an archetype of creation, and Shiva being an archetype of destruction. So think of it this way, that if all human moments of living have pretty much a beginning, middle, and end, if you can find yourself in content with it, with the, like, pretty much the person has realized Brahman's presence. You know, Terence McKenna said there is another tenant in the room. Of course, Terence McKenna is not a yogi. He's shamanic. He's a shaman, and the difference is that the imagery. The difference is the imagery. So I'm saying that there has been certain philosophers, they have thought that there's more than just the intelligence of our brains here, right? And the way they have said it, for example, Terence McKenna, there's another tenant in the room. Now I'm saying those tenants are three. There's three tenants in the room. And these are the three dimensions that all human beings experience. That of the creative dimension. You can notice it. It's like that moment you're eating breakfast, yeah, Brahman's that's sitting at the table. You know, that moment you're holding a heavy weight or carrying something, you know, that's when Vishnu's right beside you helping you carry that. Do you know, at that moment when you're leaving, you see Shiva is about to pull the curtain. And so it becomes this kind of very unique thing that you are moving from being a subject based on an object to an object, noticing if it's a subject and beyond. And that is where we want to be as a species. Because we have ignored our multidimensional birthright for too long. By the nature of being born, you're multidimensional. It's like some people think you need to have two dimensions to have a duality. No, you just need to have one. The first duality before duality was 0, 1. That means it was just awareness. That means we don't realize it. It's as if I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I speak about a subjective evolution. That subjective evolution is literally awareness has gone through worlds of being polished. I'm telling you that our minds are timeless, our bodies are in time, and our personalities are whatever they like. Our personalities are just like, all right, you know. You know, there was a time someone complimented me about how seriously playful I am. And I'll tell you this, language, when you realize it's just image, then you actually care for your life experience. That means there's a life experience where the experience is defining the life, and there's states of mind where you know your life regardless of what you experience. I've met a few people who I've seen, they've known this. I'll give you an example. There was one, I mean, this is, some people may be like, Mr. Within, maybe you're looking into it too much, but I'll tell you, I was late. So, how would I say it? Pretty much I would have to go to downtown Toronto, and I was attending Toronto Film School at the time. And and I remember I was late. There's this parking lot. I'm going in, and right when I'm going in, guys, I'm not joking. I'm driving in, and I have this intuitive feeling, just keep driving straight. In the parking lot, I'm looking for an open parking place. I get to this one car, I see this person walking. It was as if my mind, I knew what he was going to do, and he knew what I was going to do before saying it. Where it was literally, I was there, right? And I don't know how to say it, like, pretty much I went to a position where the car was leaving exactly, and the guy gave his parking pass to me. He's like, I don't need it, and he just gave it, and I was like, okay, I was late. I just put it on the car and I ran. But it was one of those moments where I'm telling you, I knew the moment before it happened, and the way I knew it was not based on time. It was like the soul is watching a timeless event, so it knows regardless of the condition. So that means this is going to be hilarious, but what if we access the greatest knowledge when we are not a shaped knower? What if when you didn't know who you were, all you could know, all that was left was to know who you are? Do you know many people fear moments of, I call them I don't know moments, you know? I mean, now I'm calling it, I don't know. But there has been many unknown moments. And very few people can bask in the unknown and, in some sense, not touch it until the unknown moves first. Then it's like you have seen the life in the moment before the moment needed to be alive in a certain way. There's a story I want to share with you about Guru Padmasambhava. Guru Padmasambhava, I'm going to tell you tell you a story about him, and then I'm going to read some quotes from him. But pretty much this guy was like enlightened. He is from the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. Pretty much, guys, Guru Padmasambhava, this man in his like 30s or something. Sorry, guys. All right, back to it. Pretty much Guru Padmasambhava, he's walking by the side of this river. He sees this incredibly beautiful woman crying. And Guru Padmasambhava, he goes and begins speaking to her. And little does he know that this is the princess of a kingdom that escaped from the kingdom because her life was messed up. Not messed up, but disturbing or something. And so Guru Padmasambhava has this enlightening conversation with her, and this girl who was crying now is laughing. Now what happens is that there's a spy, and this spy is looking from the trees and sees the princess of a kingdom talking to a strange man, So this guy goes and tells the king, and the king is like, "What the fuck?" Like the king sends his men, and what happens is the princess and Guru Padmasambhava, by the imperial guards, are brought to the kingdom, and the king is so angry. The king is like, "This guy's there, come near my daughter." And what happens is the king has brought all the townspeople, and the townspeople are like living such a low quality life. Whatever event is like an encouragement of their soul to be alive, right? So the mob mentality was like people trying to stay insane in a nation, you know. But what happens is like the townspeople are brought, and the king is angry, and the princess knows. The princess has realized who Guru Padmasambhava is, but he knows the king has not, right? And the princess just sees instantly, when she sees her father's face, she just runs and she shouts and says, "Don't do it!" Like, "Stop, stop!" She's screaming. And the king, just as if like dismisses his own daughter, as if his voice is towering on another level. And so the princess can't do anything, and there's tears in her eyes, and she knows what's going to happen. And they're bringing firewood in the middle of the town, and Guru Padmasambhava is just standing there, and the king starts the speech, and the king says, "This is a message to all those people who have dared go towards my daughter," something like that. It's like, this is what happens when you try to touch royalty, you know. Now what happens is that the moment's rough, it's messy. And Guru Padmasambhava sees that the king is about to say, like, Guru Padmasambhava goes sit there. And Guru Padmasambhava, he just looks at the princess, smiles. And then he just walks before the king can tell him, "Go sit in the middle of the fire. We're going to burn you in front of the town." Guru Padmasambhava just goes there and sits in like this meditative position in the middle of the firewood, on the ground. And they start burning the flames, and the king is like angry, and there's this sense of wrath, you know. And the flames rise. People are shouting, "Yeah, burn this guy we've never met before." The mob mentality has no idea. They're just freaking out on adrenaline. And and suddenly the mob, the crowd, the townspeople, at first they're like, "Yeah, burn him," and then suddenly they stop. They notice as the flames descend, something strange is being seen. And as suddenly all the flames are gone, and it is ashes left, Guru Padmasambhava sits there as if the fire never touched him. As if he was so aware of the world's soul, the world was like, "All right, man, we got you." The fire was like, "Okay, man, we don't want to, like, you know." The fire didn't burn him, even though man wanted to try to burn him. The natural world has eyes. And so Guru Padmasambhava is untouched by the flames. He stands up, the king freaks out, and as the story goes on, the princess ends up marrying Guru Padmasambhava. It's like some next level outcome. And so that, in that story, is like, I could see all of life there. Just I could see the life of even the title of this episode in there. That's the madness of the soul. It is not just like how we are considering there is a timeless awareness to what's in time. Guru Padmasambhava was coming from the top of the mountain to the bottom. Not only the fire couldn't touch him, but he knew the fire personally. He was the fire in higher dimensions, I find. I'm telling you, we are dualistically limited. Can you tell me the limitation of a non-dual being? The non-dual doesn't have a form, doesn't have a container. And Guru Padmasambhava was such a next level being, guys, that I was in 2013. I think I broke the world record of being the most Tibetan Buddhist Persian guy ever. You know, I had these Tibetan Buddhist beads, and I had totally walked into a totally deeper phase of what Tibetan Buddhism had been. Let me tell you, there's some teachings that the person looks up and goes after, but there's some things that the person comes to know that come to them. That means not all of what you learn is because what you have gone towards, it's also what has come towards you. Do you know? So, another example would be Guru Padmasambhava. I mean, of course, his story is so next level. At the age of 8, he just manifested from the center of a lotus in the middle of this pond and just walked and started teaching the water spirits, the lake spirits, you know? And then a king is passing by right in that moment, and the king adopts Guru Padmasambhava, something like that. And Guru Padmasambhava, he was such a next level being, honestly, that he had like an internal intuitive GPS. That means he would suddenly start walking and just start walking for such a long time and suddenly find himself in a moment where actually people needed him. There's even stories of Guru Padmasambhava in regards to like agriculture, how there were droughts or whatever, and Guru Padmasambhava, like back in the day, there was a sort of a way more archaic view that it wasn't like there was a drought, not because of like it was like a divine issue, like there were beings stopping an area from getting water or something like that. So Guru Padmasambhava was known to go convert beings from other dimensions, beings from other dimensions to Buddhism. Like it was so next level. This dude's converting like multidimensional beings to Buddhism. You know what I mean? But it's yeah, it's intense. You know, and but the point of it was that he was not afraid of the moment. There was no reason. Even when a chaotic moment came, it was like the simple truth couldn't be touched, you know. I have gone into states that I would consider are samadhi-like, but they are not states of idea. They're not states where a person's interest has gone to ideology. Right now, I think what shocks the person is the invisible other. That means we see the visible other. I am like the visible other. Do you know? That means you're the visible other. That means we see each other as individuals in the same system, but we're wondering if the system is multidimensional and there's an invisible dimension. Could there be individuals in the invisible dimensions of the same system? Do you know what I mean? On the other side of the coin. So, I don't know. Eventually, I think the madness of the soul is, I guess, another way of poetically saying the language threshold. Guys, the language threshold is this idea I've declared like it is the most important idea on this planet. It's the most important thing for the evolution towards an advanced civilization that is tired of the same blind spots. That means when you get tired of the same repetition of life, that's only when novelty becomes important. Guys, I'm just trying to find quotes from Guru Padmasambhava. There's Here's the thing. They had divinity and honor to back them up. Now we have here's the thing. They had more immaterial luxury back in the day. We have less immaterial luxury. We have more material luxury nowadays. Do you know? And when I say immaterial luxury, that means because physical reality was so simple and basic, you know, that it was like they had to see the glory of the meaning of the evolution. The evolution of meaning is an inner phenomenon. That means back in the day, their minds were like, I feel the reason our imagination is like this is because the freedom for it has been there, and each genetical line, each ancestor has kind of like opened a certain range of it, expanded into that. All right, guys, so I'm going to be reading both poetry and prose here. What I mean by that is like, all right, so I'm just going to go into a quote tunnel of Guru Padmasambhava. He says, when you realize that all the person who I just told you a story about, when you realize that all that appears and exists to be your mind, there is no path of enlightenment apart from that. Guru Padmasambhava says, here it says, Master Padma said, whatever actions you engage in, do not do anything non-dharmic that fails to become the accumulation of merit and wisdom. Do not desire anything other than omniscient Buddhahood and benefiting sentient beings. Do not be attached to anything. Attachment itself is the root of bondage. Do not criticize other teachings and do not disparage people. All the teachings are ultimately indivisible like the taste of salt. Do not criticize any of the higher or lower vehicles. They are identical in being the path to be journey, just like the steps on a staircase. You cannot know another person unless you can perceive with super knowledge. So do not criticize others. Guru Padmasambhava says, in general, all sentient beings are by their very nature spontaneously perfect Buddhas. They possess the essence of enlightenment. Guru Padmasambhava says, do not examine other people's faults or delusions. Do not examine the limitations of others. Examine how you can change your own. Do not examine the shortcomings of others, but examine your own shortcomings. Guru Padmasambhava says, the greatest of evils is to hold religious prejudice and to criticize other people without knowing their mind. So give up prejudice as if it were poison. That means people have been poisoning themselves with ideology. With ideology that has a certain fixedness to it that's not malleable, you know? Because if you treat yourself as a creature of thought, then you're limited to the design of that thought. If you treat yourself as a creature of attention where thoughts are passing through your attention, like your face is a camera, you know, which you're looking through. You know, it's like, imagine a cameraman where his head was the camera. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like what we are, you know? I think this is something that you know, in the film sector of our world, it will happen. We're gonna realize it's right now cameras have one lens. We're gonna realize it's better if we have two simultaneously. It's like when we design our technology like nature, I feel there's certain secret activations. Like if a person designs a surveillance camera like the head of a bird, how it scans every moment in just different directions. Or if we make a film camera similar to human eyes. Imagine like in the future there's chips attached to the cameraman's brain and the cameraman's eyes are the highest quality camera lens. You know? We can get a digital copy of the eyesight of people. But anyways, back to Guru Padmasambhava. Guru Padmasambhava says, outwardly, practice according to the sutras. Be meticulous about cause and effect and what you adopt or avoid. Inwardly, practice according to the unsurpassable secret mantra. It is important to combine generation and completion. Secretly practice according to the great secret Ati Yoga, and gain liberation in a body of life, and gain liberation in a body of light within a single lifetime. This notion of light bodies, guys, it is also in Vedanta. Like, what it is it's like, for me, that body of light is, for example, geometrical. I feel that in my inner realms, I'm a geometrical entity. But in my outer realms, I'm this biological human being. You know? Because let me tell you why geometry. Geometry has no bounds. Geometry is the perfect body for a collective being. One day we'll realize geometry can take us all around the cosmos. Guru Padmasambhava, he says, in the direction of the view, if conduct gets lost, the view goes to the tarnished state of Mara. In the direction of conduct, if the view is lost, having become entangled by the hopes and fears of materialism and ideology, real liberation will never come, and there's no way you can reach the level of the unified state. So, I know what he's saying, guys. Guru Padma is saying, don't touch the world. It's like it's gonna attach to your shoe like gum. But we actually have no choice. That means it means it in the inner realms. He means don't. He means like your body is the world, but your mind doesn't touch the world. You know, like a selfless selfhood. Where it's like there is no ego, but you're still a person. You know what I mean? You're still like there's the physical body of an individual there. I agree with Guru Padma but after we have built an advanced civilization. He says, if your behavior doesn't is not synchronized with the view, your intent. So if your mind and body are not in sync, then the result of unconscious behavior in this realm is you lose sight of the view, the initial view. So here's the thing: if you, let's say, a person wants to do something, but the way they do it can make them forget why they wanted to do it. He says, having become entangled by the hopes and fears of materialism and ideology, real liberation will never come, and there's no way you can reach the level of the unified state. You know, this kind of parallels in my mind, kind of like the dystopia in 1984 and the utopia in A Brave New World. It's like not both of them are not satisfactory. The hope and fear of materialism. So if hope can entangle us, then what is a stage before hope? You would say you either hope or you know. Guru Padma says, oh, sorry, this is somebody else. This is Chachral Rinpoche. I mean, technically, they're all the same being, but you might spend your whole life pursuing only food and clothes, with great effort and without regard for suffering or harmful deeds. But when you die, you can't take even a single thing. Consider this well. Chhatral Rinpoche says, if you don't reflect on death and impermanence, there will be no way to practice Dharma purely. Practice will remain an aspiration, one that is constantly postponed, and you may feel regret the day that death comes, but by then it's too late. So what does that mean? I mean, this is a central point in Buddhism. It's called like the three jewels, where the person has to find some sort of contentment with impermanence, imperfection, and incompleteness. That means you look at this life and you want it to be an immortal God, and you're like, oh shit, we're impermanent, we're temporary, we're like artwork that's being painted on the canvas for a little while, then we exit. Do you see why there's a need to live as minds more than just bewildered bodies? You look at trying to complete a task. Right now, for example, I'm sitting here giving this talk, wanting to complete this talk, and then the whole view is to give 10,000 in this lifetime to see if it's even possible or not. And I can tell you there is no completion, because the value of the initial value of the system breaks, you know? That means it's like you're a person, but you realize after 100 years or whatever, it's like, are you a person? No. If you are, at most, your presence, your energy and consciousness before language, image could intervene. And imperfection. Chatra Rinpoche says, the chances of finding a human existence are 1 in 100. Now that you have found one, if you fail to practice the sublime Dharma, how could you possibly expect to find such an opportunity again? This is why it's crucial that you take advantage of your situation. Yeah, pretty much 4 billion years for, evolution in the making, and now the show is on. It's like the performance has begun. Chatral Rinpoche says, whichever method is best suited to your own capacity. There's no better sign of accomplishment than a disciplined mind. This is true victory for the real warrior who carries no weapons. Chatral Rinpoche says it is written in many Theravadayana and Mahayana texts that one should not eat meat. Oh my god. There's also a Vajrayana text that says the same thing, that one should not enjoy meat or alcohol. Because of this, I'm following the instructions of Shakyamuni Buddha. Being a religious person, I don't take meat or alcohol, and at the same time, I try to tell other people not to consume these things. Yeah, I mean, if you think of karma, like, makes sense, I think. Guys, of course, these are quotes from a Tibetan Buddhist sage. Keep that in mind. So let's see. There should be one more. Okay, this one's called Your Natural Face. So Guru Padmasambhava says, look into the awakened mind of your own awareness. Okay, there's an exclamation point. Hold on, guys. Look into the awakened mind of your own... I'm joking. Look into the awakened mind of your own awareness. It has neither form nor color, neither center nor edge. At first it has no origin, but is empty. Next, it has no dwelling place, but is empty. At the end, it has no destination, but is empty. This emptiness is not made of anything and is clear and cognizant. When you see this and recognize it, you know your natural face. You understand the nature of things. You have seen the nature of mind, resolved the basic state of reality, and cut through the doubts about topics of knowledge. That means imagine your mind, something Guru Padmasambhava is saying, it doesn't have form. So that goes all of knowledge right there. That goes information and all that. It doesn't have form. It doesn't have color. It doesn't have a center or an edge. At first, it has no origin but is empty. That means it's aware that it's empty. Next, it has no dwelling place but is empty. At the end, it has no destination but is empty. This emptiness is not made of anything. And is clear and cognizant. Emptiness is not made of anything. So it's about the nature of the realm. What we think is enlightenment, I think it has been misunderstood in the sense that there should be a world enlightenment, an insight of the nature of how the world is before you are, and then an insight of how you are before the world is. Guru Padmasambhava says, when you see this and recognize it, you know your natural face, and that is the witness of the dance of the inner and the outer. That means your suffering is not the only thing. Suffering is like one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is the anti-suffering. You know? We have matter, antimatter. We have suffering, anti-suffering. A state where suffering doesn't exist. But there is being. Guru Padmasambhava says, mind, in quotations, is discovered to be without something outside or inside. It does not have someone that looks. It is not the act of looking. It is experienced as a great original wakefulness without center or edge, an immense all-pervasiveness that is primordially empty and free. This original wakefulness is intrinsic and self-existing. It is not made right now, but is present within yourself from the very beginning. Decide firmly that the view is to recognize just that. To possess confidence in this means to realize that, like space, mind is spontaneously present from the beginning. Like the sun, it is free from any basis for the darkness of ignorance. Like a lotus flower, it is untainted by faults. Like gold, it doesn't alter its own nature. Like the ocean, it is unmoving. Like a river, it is unceasing. Like Mount Sumeru, it is utterly unchanging. Once you realize that this is how it is, and stabilize it in brackets, that is called possessing the view of realization. Guys, the secret is the cat's out of the bag. You know? By that I mean the soul has found the perfect mirror for the body. That our idea of mind is like space. Space was here before matter. You see, it is the attributeless eternalhood. Guru Padma Baba is it's just, you know what's a miracle? He was the greatest blessing of the scribe. Let me tell you, I've had many moments where once you the person, here's the thing, imagine it, children are born, and what happens? Ethnocentrism, as Terence McKenna says, ethnocentric breastfeeding, and then after that means the child becomes self-obsessed. That means usually people go towards knowledge because they want to update themselves. They don't really care about what the nature of the knowledge is on itself. Because really, in order to care for something, you have to see more than yourself. Like if your attention is like 90% on yourself and 10% on the other, that means 90%, you don't care for the other. Meditation is something where it's no longer something that, like, it's just how we can navigate our attention, pilot our attention through the clouds of abstraction and voidhood. You know what that means? When a pilot flies, it's like the space is kind of there. I don't know how I could tell you this, but the inner realms is just like that space. So your mind is like the sky, and your body, memories, identity is all the cosmos and planets in the sky. And it's like a fractal, I don't know if I could say it, like reverb or something. Cosmological fractal reverb. There we go. This is the most important, one of the most important quotes on this planet, guys. Please share this in your social media, whoever's listening. Guys, this code is so big and there's only 200 letters allowed here. Excuse me. Okay, there we go. Speed this up a little bit. Behind our eyes, we are the universe. In front of it, we are in it. Chatral Rinpoche says to bear mistreatment from our enemies is the best form of austerity, but those who hate criticism and are attached to compliments, who take great pains to discover all the faults of others, while failing to keep proper guard over their own mind stream, and who are always irritable and short-tempered, are certain to bring breakages of samaya upon all their associates. So rely constantly on mindfulness, vigilance, and conscientiousness. Chatral Rinpoche says, during this degenerate age in the outer world, there are many natural disasters due to the upsetting of the four elements. Also, demonic forces come with their many weapons to incite the fighting of wars. All of those forces have caused the world to come to ruin and led all to tremble, so terrified that their hair stands on end. Still, the demonic forces find it necessary to come up with new types of weapons. That's why we make supplication prayers to do the aspiration prayers. Okay, this guy hasn't understood it, man. Because how can he see? How can he? He says we're responsible for those activities. You see, this is the issue. It's not, he's a good person, Chaltro Rinpoche, but ancient archaic mysticism made the mistake of declaring the outer realm as illusion. Because you declare it as illusion, the ultimate wisdom throughout the ages becomes, hey guys, detach from the world. And then when people are detached from the world, if they want to change something in the world, they'll be like, hey, you told me to be detached first. Now you want me to go and change and fight these enemies? So in some sense, the enemy in your outer realm is based on your I thought. That's the challenge, you know. Rather than updating language to make it more multidimensionally adjustable, we've just been telling generation after generation, be detached, be detached. I think it's honestly piloting is the only analogy, because any other analogy will be limited. I have to use a dynamic analogy, you know. That means we think nouns are more important than verbs. We don't realize our mind is a verb and our body is a noun. So what are we? A noun, verb, verb, noun? Like, what is it? A verby noun? I don't know. You know, imagine there's an English teacher in the world who's named, you know, their children like verb and noun. It's like, stop that verb! You know, it's like. It's like, come to the here and now, noun. Sorry, guys, I'm feeling a bit silly tonight. Let's. One last thing I think that's necessary to read, and then I'll move. It says, the poem is called All This. What we understand to be phenomena are but the magical projections of the mind. Oh, sorry, the Yeshe Sogyal is saying this. What we understand to be phenomena are but the magical projections of the mind, the hollow vastness of the sky. I never saw to be afraid of anything. All this is but the self-glowing light of clarity. There is no other cause at all. All that happiness is but my adornment. Better than to stay in silent meditation. So Yeshe Sogyal, she says the hollow vastness of the sky. Yeah, when you look at the actual realm, There's something remarkable about its edge not being clear. So one edge of the cosmos, we know where one edge of it is. It's like right, or the edge of our pupil, you know. Your consciousness is the gift of having access to something that is more than an object and a subject, but is the mover of them instantly in the moment. The instant mover, the secret of the world dwells in eyes that were open before they needed to be eyes to be open. There's one more I'm going to read. It's called Present in Yourself. Guru Padmasambhava says, this awakened, I think I read this, but I'm going to read it again. The awakened mind of awareness is not made out of any material substance. So your mind is not an object, so trying to relate it to objects could be meaningless. So Guru Padmasambhava says the awakened mind of awareness is not made out of any material substance. I don't know if I've read this actually. All right, whatever, I'll go. It is self-existing and inherent in yourself. So your mind is a self-existing phenomena. Study that. Guru Padmasambhava says this is the nature of things that is easy to realize because it is not to be sought for elsewhere. This is the nature of mind that does not consider. Guys, I'm going to read it from the beginning. This awakened mind of awareness is not made out of any material substance. It is self-existing and inherent in yourself. This is the nature of things that is easy to realize because it is not to be sought for elsewhere. This is the nature of mind that does not consider a concrete perceiver and something perceived to fixate on. It defies the limitations of permanence and annihilation. In it, there is no thing to awaken. The awakened state of enlightenment is your own awareness that is naturally awake. In it there is no thing that goes to the hells. Awareness is naturally pure. In it there is no practice to carry out. Its nature is naturally cognizant. This great view of the natural state is present in yourself. Resolve that is not to be sought for elsewhere. That's the thing. The tip of the iceberg is a human with a name tag running around like a beast, you know, a bewildered evolutionary animal, you know. But Guru Padmasambhava is saying that what if what you're looking for is not something you can look for? It's something that's naturally there, you know. There's these two notions of virtue. A kind of virtue that is of the innocent. The child doesn't know better, you know, so the child is kind of innocent, you know. And then we see that, so there's the innocence of the being that doesn't know and couldn't have known. And then there's the innocence of the person who, it is a different kind, it's not innocence, it's a virtue of the person who has seen the chaos and has come to that sort of simplicity. So it's like there's a simplicity that hasn't seen the complexity, and then there's a simplicity that sees the complexity but resolves back into the simplicity. You know? So anyways, guys, I'm going to come back to the title and the quote tunnel there. You know, we get tired, then we try again, then we see the outcome. And I remember in Vedanta, I think it was actually in the Puranas written by Rishi Vyasa. I don't know which Purana though. Where there was a yogi who had gone through 7,500 apocalypses. I remember I read that in the book and I put it down and I just looked at the moment and I'm like, I'm suffering for one lifetime. This dude's been through 7,500 apocalypses. I was like, okay, maybe I should, maybe we totally have a diluted view on suffering, you know? And that's it, really. I honestly, like, there's endless ways to see the moment, you can say. But life's intensity is now. Now is where we can move. Now, you know? It's like they told someone, come to the here and now. And the person's like, hey man, how could I not be in the here and now? And the person suddenly went back into a cave to meditate for 3 more years. Honestly, it's like, it's an opportunity for a performance. The best way, like the whole thing I'm saying about an advanced civilization and striving towards that as a species, it's because it's really like the only thing we can do. Imagine we build an advanced civilization, like an incredibly advanced civilization, and then extraterrestrials come down and they're like, why did you guys build an advanced civilization? What was the catalyst? And we're like, we got bored, god damn it, we got bored. Really, like, what is the best thing? I encourage anybody, like, just to create a sort of playful thing. People can challenge me on this. I feel the idea of an advanced civilization is the ultimate human game. And if we don't attempt the ultimate human game, then it's like, you know, what is the honor of the animate? This mind gives us a privilege to move. I can tell you that it's the mind does have a life that has nothing to do with the body. The mind is like an invisible scholar, an invisible self-updating system. There's moments where I mean, of course, in the conscious waking state, after, like, if you were to consciously notice, literally imagine you were like a neat freak, but you were a mystical neat freak, okay? So anywhere you went, you were looking at the geometry of everything in your space. After many days of waking up, you'll get a sense of, like, what's going on in the moment. When you realize the greatest teacher of the moment is the moment that's changing, like, that'll be the moment where, the modern world would not descend into, the mistakes of the past. We have to, even Lao Tzu says it, this Chinese philosopher from 1,000 years ago. He says you got to let go of who you are now to become who you're meant to, something like that. That means if you're a person right now who is suffering, you have the eyes of someone who you think life is against you or stuff's messed up or da 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 da. Do you know? Those are just a pair of eyes in the moment. Heraclitus even says no man steps in the same river twice, and it's not the same man and it's not the same river. What that means is we're treating our identities like an arrow, like an arrow, but it's actually endless dots making this arrow, making this line. So it's as if like endless tiny moment, not tiny, but like moment. Like it's a sequence. It's a sequence of activation of creaturehood in symbiosis with the fields of intelligence of its realm. So it's as if like by deviating from a nature a little bit, we found the void. The void is the cause of our consciousness. So you know what that means? That means consciousness, if we were to create an equation for like consciousness occurs when matter notices the void. That means it becomes so complex to us to think that our intelligence is imbued from behind the veil of the void or after the veil of the void. After the veil of the void, that means imagine the Big Bang before it happened, it being like a dot of ink on a blank page, right? Now that dot of ink is on a blank page, but what is on the other side of this blank page where this universe has, this dot of ink has began becoming the point where everything else expands from? Because if you notice, we can't know a moving thing. Like a person can't get a teacup and put it underneath a waterfall and be like, yeah, I got the whole waterfall in a cup. Like it's impossible. Do you know? And that's what's happening with language and linearized knowledge and then levels of law spreading from attitudes. That means we have to, as a species, like just notice that time is our inspiration. I have not had a greater motivation. I have not heard a greater motivational speaker on this planet than time, than my mortality. It's like I remember looking at a candle melting, and I'm like, "Holy shit! What am I doing with my life?" Like it was like that. Oh man. It's like the person, somebody's like comes into the room with a candle, and the person's like, turn it off, and the person's like, why? And the person's like, turn it off, you know, and the person says, because it's the ultimate metaphor for the mind's work. Your mind is not just per se an idea, like it's not like a name tag or a language mask, a mask of language. It's you have to free your eyes from the eyes that are not free. Then freedom is a remembrance, I find. And that's the thing, guys. Just study life's intensity. It's like we are literally like who created language. Like I understand mystical insights. I understand there's a divinity to communicating, sharing from your. Now, when I say divinity, I would say there is an unknown mover of the known when it comes to writing, for example. You know, or creative acts. It's like a trust in the unknown allows you to access the knowledge. There we go. That's it. That's the best way to, I think, put it into words. If we can find somehow another prototype of civilization that is just conscious, if we can build a yin yang civilization, that's the key Technically, a yin-yang civilization would be like two sides of a brain. We should literally build our advanced civilization like our body, the ultimate architecture. That would be next level architecture, no? That you had different buildings, shaped like body organs. Exact 100% accurately shaped like a body organ. You know, imagine that, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's something there. Guys, I'm going to read an entry from the source of language, and then I'm gonna step into the void from cyberspace. Oh man. Okay, so in 2015, I wrote a book called The Source of Language. It's unpublished, but I feel it's worth reading something for it. So this chapter is called Your Eyes Open. Your eyes open. You get out of bed. The morning sun tells you you're late, but a world has suddenly appeared. Who is responsible for the creation of the creator? Who is responsible for the creator of the creation? Does the moment need to necessarily have a story of a surviving ape in an infinitely changing universe associated to it? Do you see how essential it is to remind the world it is multidimensionally pure and infinitely void in its nature? And the next moment always has more to say than the last. To suddenly realize there is a whole world outside suggests your inner world, in quotations, is stationed formlessly without any effort. Does existence need to think it to exist? Existence exists effortlessly. The nature of existence can be very poetically said to be revelation through all that is. Could your phone suddenly turn alive and have a conscience where it turns to your watery eyes of unknown fascination and tells you, true story, bro, wonder about your consciousness? The concept of, in quotations, world of worlds has fascinating multidimensional architecture once the ego is reverse engineered out of void conceptions of time and space. Lying distorts reality. Honesty restores it. Be true to the world that you're being. We are beacons of intelligent and empty space. Seek the greatest alignment that your mind is being right now. If wisdom is the guide of the sage, silence is the guide of wisdom. When there's no postulate, the world seems to be possible in every way. We all deep down recognize this quality of our awareness. However, there is also the duty of life we must attend for, and that means regardless of how much I want to Mahasamadhi out of here, the destiny of the moment is like a seed planted before the birth of a conscious identity. Before the word, in quotations, me, reality is silent. Language is a great tool. Few have truly comprehended its depth. When a person speaks, it reveals everything about how their mind and attention is originating reality. No word is said meaninglessly. Nature's inspiration is within us all. When the reality of a liar is considered, a liar lives in a world of many illusions, for such a person has to be many different people to many different people. The contents of a book are never something to doubt. The reception of your mind, rather, is. What puts meaning behind the form considered is actually a reflection of the design of your own mind. Memory, for some sages, seems to be an accumulation of phenomena in which association with limits, and this association makes limitless. This allows a subjective dynamism to spark behind the symbology of your world, and for the first time you wonder where in and what kind of space and place is imagination taking place. Modern neurology points to the brain, but the brain is only the surface of our consciousness. You are a multidimensional being. That means by nature you're everywhere at once, and not just only everywhere, but all phenomena is originating out of the instantaneity of a conscious moment. It's as our bodies evolved like apes. It's as if our bodies evolved like apes, but our minds grew like trees. What that means is the branches are not separate from the trunk, and neither are the roots. When the mind is considered like a tree, a very beautiful atmosphere of self-inquiry takes place. One begins to wonder if there are known and unknown dimensions to the mind, and if we're walking in a hallway of doors, is the point of the journey the entrance into a door or an endless walk? The mind then naturally begins to realize that it cannot know what it knows. In quotations, I've written determinism here, not in quotations, in brackets. The mind then naturally begins to realize that it can know what it knows, determinism, or said in another manner, it knows what it cannot, divinity. This means all searches for enlightenment and liberation, in a sense, stop in the context of your perception. As there's nothing for the body or thought to do, suddenly one's conscious intelligence realizes all phenomena and movement in the world is an expression of mind. And the source of that mind is an unspeakable, all-pervading absolute intelligence within us all. Are these words deeper than ocean waters or interstellar journeys beyond space-time? Are words even enough? Life cannot die. Thus, the death of the illusion of death is a better acknowledgement of the moment of departure which all beings must confront. The presence of energy seems to change into different forces, however, energy cannot be created or destroyed. Yoda, after doing yoga, realized it was all one force. Luke already knew how to walk the sky, and the mass of the universe doesn't change as well. So even though it is popularity, even though it is popularity considered that the same, so even though in its popularity considered that the same molecules in my body are the same molecules in the body of a person millions of years ago, or any person for that matter in history. It seems that a void identity cannot comprehend itself without an objective and simultaneously subjective endeavor to its design. Our bodies have no objectivity against objectivity. It is our minds that wonder about the reflection in the mirror. There is no scythe to fear but the sharpness of the edge of our minds that we must be mindful of. Eternal greatness comes with intuitive guidance. The drops in the river are all moving through a river of cosmic intelligence. The integration of such vision is beyond description, for the dynamism of experience is too dynamic to be statically referred to. The source of language, as it is implied in this book, is the source of the moment, which your mind is intricately weaving as your experience. It is your birthright to explore your world and comprehend its true nature. All religions are ahead of their time, but consciousness is beyond time. Living clarity. Nature is the greatest concept known to man. Who can truly have a comment on creation? Spontaneity is the wisdom of the next generations. Isn't the mere allowance of the possibility of an intellectual faculty in existence divine? The possibility and spontaneity of life intelligence seems to be a miracle on its own. Yeah, seems to be a miracle on its own. The possibility and spontaneity of life intelligence seems to be a miracle on its own. Sacred geometry can be considered a language of a higher dimensional being, in quotations, higher dimensional being. When technological revelations in sound and light have birthed a new dimension of science through a new awareness, as a supernova explosion of the collapse of all egos occurs on the planet, many consciousness technologies shall be resurfaced and be revealed to be revealed to the modern youth in the here and now, in quotations. Just like how you go and sit by an apple tree, once the fruit is ready, it falls. The hammer of philosophy shall remind science of the nail's firmness. Know thyself. Why is life here? There's nothing wrong with God. It seems it was Adam that fell. the, the idea of a person is making cosmic attention feel it does not belong to all that is keeping it here. Creation is the greatest pride of the Creator. But the awareness to the Creator is beyond pride. Dissolve in love and remember the cosmos as you have always been. The world is turning for you, and so is destiny. Did you not notice? The psychology of scarcity abides by conditional and natural functions. Is existential design the ability of God? Go within and bask in how you are beyond form. As great universal memories are landed and remembered in this plane of existence, ancient modernity shall turn into a void spiral of infinite existential possibilities. Contemplate nature's truth and allow its possibility and design to guide you beyond slow comparison. A Bhakti yogi simply gives all his thoughts to God and in absolute devotional service realizes the self of selves through all that is. Do you trust life naturally, or do you need to think about life before trusting the life that you're already being? We're all driven by our most direct experience. Could a manual car be more stimulating for the development of the mind of the driver? How does repetitive automation evolve and grow beyond the function of its design? Oh my God, how long is this? Oh my God, okay. There's another page left, guys. If anybody wants to tune out, I totally understand. Okay, where was I here? A cosmic perspective leads to enlightenment. When memories orbit around a writer with writer's block to witness destiny's movement and all the factors that can change your mind in regards to the next word you can write as a writer, the words of creation are inspired by the worlds of creation. And the worlds of creation are inspired by the words of creation. Is the reflection of God mankind? When you look in the mirror, who is the seer? Is everything in existence looking in the mirror, or is it just you? The moment is beyond separation. Transcend verbal truth into self-experiential purity. What does history mean to an eternal, dynamic organism named cosmos, in quotations? When civilization transcends language, God was dreaming within the greatest awakening. Mystics are the video game players of the actual game of life. Beyond the chains of karma, how did the Buddha lift off to the sky he had become? There's no objective or subjective answer to life, or even a satisfying one for that matter, simply because our consciousness is creative in essence, and as much as we think we are only, in quotations, creation, our minds are self-projected into reality, implying the creator that we think we are. You cannot live this life by not wanting to live it. The great mystery of the dreams of your mind is for your origin to awaken. Remembrance does not cause sorrow once the ego is dissolved or witnessed to be non-existent. If Morpheus from the Matrix... Sorry guys, this is so long, oh my God. Okay, no, it's gonna finish soon. This is just something I wrote in 2015 for whoever's just tuning in. If Morpheus from the Matrix could switch places with the Tooth Fairy, which pill would you take once you looked under your pillow? Choice is an interesting notion, because for the body it is its purpose, for the mind its position, and for consciousness it is the void remembrance of an absolute cause that never had an effect, for the cause never stopped being what it was. All effects may then be considered elusive. As brilliant as the notion of evolution may seem, what made the child not crush the ant? Life is within us, and our experiences of self are like a spiral of endless change around a circular point. Regardless of any technological singularity, it is consciousness that moves the mind that thinks it is a body. I may like to add here that if cosmologists were to try to visualize a geometry to our universe, they would be missing the space. How can you define absence or measure it? However, in a 3D view, the shape of consciousness can be playfully said to be like a spiraling toroidal field that is kept by everything that is nothing. The attitude towards God can be seen as a representation of your own mind. However, when you wonder about who you are, you will find the moment is spontaneously self-existent. Did anyone say God? Writing can be seen as sculpting reality with words, but the awareness beyond the words cannot be changed by identity. Have you noticed the center of a circle has no degrees? It doesn't matter if you are 50 degrees enlightened or radiating like 2 radian, the center of our existence is void, for it extends into greater dimensions beyond our capability of comprehension from a fixed state of mind. Language is a catalyst, and the wise see beyond it. First I was a fool, then a desperate sage, then an enlightened void, then the unspeakable turn of eons into now. Because we don't know who the creator of our mind is, we are not the one who created it. In other words, if you are someone who suddenly looks at the heavens and shouts, "Who created this?" You're going to notice that if a conscious being is asking about its origin, that frame of mind never can be the origin. Do you see this? Because the frame of mind has originated as, in quotations, someone who doesn't know and is trying to know. But the attention to reality doesn't change. From, in quotations again, someone who doesn't know. Oh my God, guys, I think I'm repeating this thing. Hold on. Okay, no, it's right. Okay, so I'll read it again. Do you see this? Because the frame of mind has originated as, in quotations, someone who doesn't know and is trying to know, but the attention to reality doesn't change from, in quotations, someone who doesn't know. It's important for an eternal being to realize itself as source beyond, in quotations, it. Attention is existence. If you were an eternal being, in brackets, you're an eternal being because the whole entirety of existence and the whole cosmos is eternally being and to vast, is eternally being and vast to limit. I don't know what I'm writing here. You would be mindful of your direct experience beyond the change of your ideas. So pretty much the sentence is, if you were an eternal being, you would be mindful of your direct experience beyond the change of your ideas. Mindfulness turns the world. Sometimes I find that scientists are the most spiritual people ever, because even though they reject metaphysics and the idea of the eternity of soul, they cannot reject the eternity of how they have accepted the universe's expanding continuity. If existence is eternal, what makes you think you are not? Change is our own game. My dear human beings, this world is not above us or beyond us. It is us. That's the end, guys. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. And that book, what I read for you right now, like the past 20 minutes, that's a book where hopefully it's going to soon meet the light of day. You know, the thing is that there is something about the creative urge that surpasses management. But life finds a way if it has the will. Thanks for listening, everyone. Much blessings and namaste.